What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Sweat the Bed podcast brought to you by OddsJam. If those of you who have now started betting on NFL don't know what oddsjam.com is, you have to check out our sponsors, OddsJam. OddsJam is a sports bettor's best friend. They provide you with awesome sports betting tools that you just literally have to use. These are essential. If you're more than I'm going to bet on the Super Bowl, like you're betting regularly every week, week in and week out, multiple sports, you got to check it out. They find you the edge so that you get some of the edge back against the house, the sports book. Positive EV, guys, the best value lines. If you don't know what positive EV betting is, please check out our YouTube channel, find some educational videos about that. But we will find you positive EV lines on all different kinds of sports books. We have very helpful tools like Bet Tracker, so you don't have to keep your little manual spreadsheets, your messy notebook, automated grading. We have helpful calculators, easy line shopping. You have to line shop. If you are not line shopping, you're probably going to get crushed by betting a lot of juice and a lot of vig for no reason. So all of these things are on oddsjam.com. Please go check it out. It is a must. Let us help you get the edge and make some money, guys. I'm one of your co-hosts of the Sweat the Bet podcast. I'm Andrew Kim, aka the ParlayDoc, and with me today is the co-host Matt Modi, aka Jedi Modi. How's it going, Jedi?
It's going good, man. We are recording this on Wednesday, September 14th, just one more night of sleep, and then we get the beautiful matchup of the Chiefs versus Chargers. So I am good. I'm also home alone for the next couple of days. My girlfriend is out of town on a girls trip, so it's just me and the dogs for the next couple of days. So yeah, living the dream.
Nice. And for those of you who are just joining us, we thank you for tuning in. For those of you who are regular listeners, we thank you for your support. So please, follow us on all podcast mediums. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Sweat the Bet YouTube channel. And not to brag, guys, look, I know some of my crazy exotic props, some of them were flops over my Twitter account, but here, what's more important, guys, here, let's focus on the Sweat the Bet podcast. Matt and I are three best each. We went 5-1. I'm going to give myself the 5. I'm not going to say 4.5. I'm going to say 5-1.
I mean, technically, the bet won. I mean,
you didn't lose.
You didn't lose the bet. It's just you had something pushed because of a tie, but it still counts as a W all the same.
Exactly. So Matt went 3-0, and I went 2-1. So there's no way you lost money on the Sweat the Bet podcast best bet picks between our 6 picks if you followed us on our week 1 preview. So please stick around. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the NFL week 2 primetime games. We're going to give a quick preview of each, just give our thoughts on any random, lines or props that stand out. And at the end, like I said, 5-1, guys, we're going to give our best bets again going into week 2. All right. So before we kick it off and dive into some of these week 2 NFL primetime games, we're going to kick it off with our traditional sweat, no sweat segment, where each of us gives a statement to the other to see if it's a sweat or a no sweat. So I'll kick it off. It's more of a general comment here. This Thursday night football game, which is looking like it's going to be very spicy, Matt. This is going to be the best Thursday night football game of the season. The NFL is peaking way too soon this season with Thursday night football, and it's just going to be downhill, garbage, trash, messy games on Thursday night football specifically. The rest of the way, Thursday night football is peaking tomorrow, so it's can't miss Thursday night football, and it's all downhill from there.
Let's see. I'm looking at the schedule to see what we got here. I mean, this is definitely the best game. You're definitely right about that. Chiefs, Chargers, definitely the best game. Next week, Steelers, Browns is gross. Like we have a Commanders, Bears. It's gross.
Gross.
So Ravens, Bucks could be good.
Week 8. Could be good. I guess that's the one that's going to make you think about it.
But like Falcons, Panthers is gross.
Gross.
Titans, Packers could maybe be good. Like who knows after week 1. Raiders, Rams, not horrible. But
not
like
horrible.
Week 16, we get Jags, Jets. Oh my God.
Gross.
That's terrible. And then for some reason, the Titans are playing 2. Maybe one's Thanksgiving. That's got to be it. Because they're playing another Thursday night game against the Cowboys. That'll probably be gross. So I'm going no sweat. I think the only competition is probably the Ravens Bucks, but even though like this Chiefs Chargers game, I mean, it could be the AFC Championship. It could be like the teams with the best two records in the NFL. I'm going no sweat. I think that one's good.
All right. All right. Yeah, I can't miss Thursday night football. That's what I'm thinking. You got it. If you're gonna watch a Thursday night game, tomorrow's the night, guys.
Yeah, 100%.
So what do you got for me, Matt?
So we're talking about the 4 primetime games today. So my sweat or no sweat is Justin Jefferson gets over 150 receiving yards against the Eagles. For context, he had like 184. I have it in front of me. Then I just lost my train of thought. He had 184. Yeah, last game against the Packers. He did majority of that in the first half when the game was like still in question. Second half, the game was pretty much out of hand. They took their foot off the gas. So I'm saying gets over 150 against my Eagles.
Oh, 150. Oh, that's a large number. Oh, that's a large number. Oh man. Okay. I'm just gonna roll with it. I'm gonna say no sweat. I'm gonna say no sweat. And even you've heard me. I was high on the Eagles. I will say it looked a little concerning.
Sure did.
Against the Lions.
It sure did.
And I will say your take on the Vikings, was absolutely correct. They looked
good.
Very good on in all aspects, really. And Justin Jefferson looked, and I'm not going to go crazy saying MVP, but I mean, he looked like a stud, like a man on a mission. And I think knowing this is prime time and this is going to be prime time and you're going up against AJ Brown, and I think he's going to want to rise up and show out. And so I think he's going to have a big game. I think it's going to happen. So
yeah, we'll talk about it in more detail when we get to the game, but I have my reasons. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I'll go with no sweat.
Nice.
We'll get into it. So cool. All right, guys. So let's just get into it. And so for those of you who are going to be tuning in, likely you're going to catch this with just a little bit of time if you want to hear our little sneak peek about the Thursday night game. So we're going to be pretty quick here so that you could at least hear this segment, guys. So the first primetime game, NFL Week 2, Los Angeles Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be interesting because I think on face value, everyone's expecting a shootout. If you go by trends, you could actually make the argument that Thursday night game trends with totals, the under at this line, this high at that 54/54.5 mark, the under is actually smashing it at that rate, guys. And so people are going to say, do you follow the trends or do you follow the fact that these are two teams that could be explosive, right? So key things to take away: Chargers without Keenan Allen. Okay. Unlikely to have JC Jackson back. Chiefs guard Trey Smith, questionable. So keep an eye on that. And he'd be the one lined up on the side with Bosa on the right side. So those are just some of the injury factors to kind of keep in mind as we're talking about this game and things for you to consider as you're trying to cap this. But let's go, Matt. You tell me, why don't you kick this one off? Tell me, what are some of your initial thoughts, knowing that those are some of the injuries, those are some of the trends with the overs and the unders for Thursday night games. What are your thoughts about how you think this game is going to play out? Some key factors. What do you got for us today?
Sure. So I thought it was kind of interesting. The spread opened at 3.5. It was bet all the way up to 5 or 5.5. Yeah. And now it's kind of settled back at 4.5, which I think sounds about right. For me, the spread, I have a hard time. I don't really have a feel on. I know, like, you're right. The Thursday games trend under. I think this one's going to buck the trend. I have this one going over. If you take out Justin Herbert's first ever NFL start, which, if you remember, he found out like 10 minutes before the game. Yeah, because So for those of you who don't remember, Justin Herbert wasn't supposed to start. He didn't start his rookie year, the first game. The second game of the season, Tyrod Taylor was the starter. The Chargers training staff punctured his lung pregame, getting some sort of shot. So Justin Herbert found out 10 minutes before the game that he was starting. And he was amazing. He was incredible in that game. But regardless, if you take out that game, every single time Herbert has played the Chiefs, the total has gone over. All 3 of those games, one of the teams has scored 30 plus points. Every single game has gone over the 54.5 number. And I think the no Keenan Allen is going to hurt. But Herbert, it just doesn't seem to affect him. He just throws these freaking lasers, just right in the breadbasket. It's almost impossible to drop because it just sticks into your body. I think if I was ranking quarterbacks most satisfying to watch them just throw a football, Herbert is like got to be top 3. If I'm just thinking about that, just the way he just lasers the ball in. So I think he can make it work with anybody. One thing I did find interesting is so their teams are 1-1 against each other the last 2 years, right? Like sure. Each 1-1 lost one. The Chargers have won the last 2 games in Kansas City. This game Thursday night is in Kansas City. So yep. I think that makes sense. The Chargers have always been a good home team since they moved to LA because quite frankly, they've been a good away team. I think I misspoke there. Quite frankly, because every one of their games is basically away because the opposing fan base always takes over their stadium. So I don't really put the home field advantage too much in the Kansas City Chiefs favor. So what I ended at, so I got the over when it first opened at 53.5. Yep. That's been bet up to 54.5. Still like the over. I'd probably put a half unit on the 54.5. I'd put a full unit on 53.5. And to have an official prediction, I took the Chargers covering the 4.5 point spread. Because I mean, I know I said this last week between the Chargers Raiders game, but this game just feels like a field goal.
Yeah.
In the only 2 games that Justin Herbert has lost in his career against the Chiefs have both gone into overtime. One of the games the Chiefs won on a field goal. One of the games the Chiefs won on a touchdown, so they would have covered the spread in that one. But like Herbert plays the Chiefs tough. Herbert's a top 5 quarterback. Chargers have a top 5 roster. This game's going to be a shootout. I'll take the Chargers to cover.
Yep. Okay, cool. So, we'll be brief here because, like I said, we want to go quick on this one. My only comments are additional kind of statistics. I've heard some people out there saying, when they're talking about the total, my gut is I would lean over as well. I didn't catch it at that opening 53.5, but I am probably going to put at least like a half unit on over 54.5. And I know it's a little high, but some people out there who've been saying smash the under, what I've been seeing out there is they're talking about just a generic Thursday night trend. And my response is trends are trends. Okay, that's cool. But you're not taking in individual factors of the reality of who's playing and on the field, right? They've also been citing, and they looked at the stats from week 1 and they said, look, pace of play was pretty average for the Chargers. Pace of play was really low for the Chiefs. But my response to that is it's 1 week and it's game 1. They're figuring things out. They're not even used to all their schemes. At this point, in my opinion, week 1 is like the preseason almost. And I mean, the games count, but I'm saying like these starters just aren't even playing in the preseason for the most part, right? For a lot of these teams, at least key players, maybe 1 series, if even, right? And if you look at last season, Chargers were like, I think top in pace of play. And Kansas City was in the top 10. So I'm actually thinking we're going to see a move back to the trend, since they still have a lot of their core key pieces on the offensive side of the ball, that I think we're going to see a faster pace of play. I don't think it's going to be in kind of that slow pace that people were citing from the week 1 trends that they were seeing. So
yeah. And I would wonder if the Chiefs, like that game was pretty much over, like after the first 2 drives, the Chiefs like that, you know what I mean? So I wonder if the Chiefs slowed down because of that.
And that was my other argument, is that their pace of play was skewed because they were in the lead and they were just doing slower huddles, just design run plays that you almost kind of skewed the stats because of how much of a blowout that was.
Exactly.
So when people have been citing that, I think you can't just take it at face value of the pace of play on face value. You got to see what actually happened in the game, like Matt was saying. So for some of those factors, like, and what was the trend last year over the sample size of a whole season, I think it's going to be a fast paced game. And I think it's just going to be a matter of, do they hit their targets or is it going to be sloppy? But I'm hoping they're going to hit their targets, hit their routes, and we're going to see a fun, exciting game. So I am going to roll with that. My only last 2 comments, not an analysis, but more just some interesting little trends here, like Matt was talking about with records and road splits. Here's a couple value ones. So these aren't going to be part of my best bets, because I think it's really hard to consider like a touchdown score or best bet, but just like some exotic props for you guys who like this stuff. Justin Herbert has actually run in and rushed for a touchdown in 3 out of the 4 games against the Chiefs.
Interesting.
And, and I think we're all aware of stopping the run issues for the Chiefs, but I wasn't aware that Herbert had basically run it in 3 out of the 4 games.
Yeah.
So it's plus 480 on FanDuel, much lower on some other books. I think like DraftKings is more in the 300s. I saw in the low 300s in a lot of other places, but because there is that huge discrepancy, plus 480. And if you've done it 3 out of 4 times, like to me, that screams some value. Obviously, it's not easy, and you need like a specific setup where they're literally at the 1 or 2 yard line. But you know what? I'll take it. I'll sprinkle on that just because he's done it 75% of the time at plus 480. Sure, I'll take that. And then the other one, and again, this is just gut and what I saw in week 1, but Hardman on the Chiefs side, I know he actually didn't take a ton of snaps in the series and stuff, but again, some of that was at the end, they were in the lead, but he had 3 red zone targets. So because I saw that in the red zone, he got 3 red zone targets, 2 were kind of within 10 yards, plus 260. I'll take that as one of the main red zone targets. So plus 260 on FanDuel for Hardman, and the plus 480, very juicy, high risk, but I'll take the Herbert since he's done it 75% of the times against the Chiefs. So
yeah,
those were just some weird, at least the Herbert one was a weird one that I saw that I wanted to point out.
Yeah, I like it. I was going to save this for if we did a live stream tomorrow before the game, but I took 3 anytime touchdown scorers. I'll just do rapid fire. Kelsey, like the odds sucked at minus 145 on FanDuel. Every other book had it at like minus 170. The other 2 were Clyde Edwards-Helaire at plus 140. That was on Caesars, and I got Mike Williams at plus 145. That was on FanDuel.
Yep, nice, Mike Williams. And then my last comment is in terms of just the standard stuff, spread, I would lean Chargers plus 4.5, just because you're getting that cushion of more than a field goal.
Exactly.
What I think is going to be a tight game. And not that I think betting their money line is the greatest thing, but that DraftKings has again, and I bet the wrong side, guys. That plus 7 thing, but I'm a sucker for value. And I think if you are going to use the DraftKings 7-point lead promo, where if you bet a money line and the team that you picked gets a 7-point lead or higher, you will automatically cash and win that bet regardless of the outcome. That if you're going to use that promo, I would still say the same thing. In this case, I would just take the Chargers with the promo for the money line if you're going to do the mony line promo. That's all I'm saying. So
I would agree with you there. I would lean again the plus money. We were wrong on it last week, but that's going to happen. I'm with you there. I would lean the Chargers as well.
Okay. All right. So moving on, guys. We're moving on. We're just going to go in chronological order. The Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers for our Sunday night game. That is the Sunday night primetime game. And I will preface this with an apology. I apologize to my Chicago Bears because we went 5-1, and the 1 L was me going bananas saying I should bet my son's tuition and all my money on the 49ers, who just laid an egg, basically.
Yep.
And Trey Lance, I don't think people should just blame it on the rain. Yes, the rain was a factor, but even me eating the L, I'm going to take the L like a man. And I'm going to say Trey Lance was raw and shaky. Lots of self-inflicted wounds and penalties. They were just not in rhythm. The Bears were opportunistic, and when opportunities presented, they did what a winner would do, and they actually capitalized on it. And I will say, I liked Justin Fields' body language throughout. The first few series were rough for him, but I didn't see what I saw last year in the Nagy era where he looked defeated. And I know this is all just cliche and body language, but look, he was very animated. He was analyzing stuff on the sideline and vocal with the coaches, vocal with his receivers. You can tell he was trying to, nitpick about what he wanted the offensive line to do. He seemed very engaged, even at the lowest points when it was looking rough in that first half. And in the big moments, they came through. So I apologize to the Chicago Bears for having zero faith as a Chicagoland resident. And I'm just trying not to fade the Bears anymore. I'm just going to stay away. And I learned now that bad juju exists, and I'm not going to try to fade my hometown team. That's all I've got to say. I'm going to start with that.
No, so. I think that's fair. I mean, I didn't watch that whole game, but I found it hard to really gather much from that. Like, that was an absolute monsoon. Soldier Field, people were swimming.
It was a monsoon. It was terrible.
It was terrible. I just found it hard to really get much from that. I did find it funny that this is a game. The Bears are 1-0. The Packers are 0-1. Like the Bears had like an impressive win, 6.5 point underdogs. The Packers looked horrible in their loss to the Vikings, and yet Packers are like 10-point favorites.
I
So
know.
like
I
the
know.
odds I looked at, so I looked at the look ahead line. So
Hmm.
basically the line before week one games, and it was the same. Like this line didn't change at all based on the results of week one. So it's kind of interesting because it's like the next game we'll talk about, Titans Bills, that line feels like a complete reaction to week one. Whereas
Yeah,
this line isn't taking it into account at all, which I do understand. Like logically, I get it because again, the Bears, I still have faith in Lance. I'm not throwing in the towel on Trey
yeah,
Lance. And the Packers, there's two sides, right? Like last year, everybody's talking about, well, last year they got spanked by the Saints in week one, like 38-3, and look how they ended the year.
yeah,
And then the other side is like, okay, well, you can't just say that's going to happen again because they don't have Devontae Adams. Like you can't just minimize the loss
sure.
of Devontae Adams. I kind of land in the middle where I don't think you should. I don't think their season's over. I don't necessarily think they're just going to rattle off another 14 or 13 win season or whatever.
Sure.
But for this specific game, I lean the Packers covering the spread. I was able to. This is another early line I got. I got them at -9 at -107. At the current spot, of 9.5 or 10, I would like my official prediction is the Packers, but I would stay away from an actual betting perspective. What I did find interesting is that the total is super low. It's at like 42 or 42.5, depending on where you look.
Hmm.
Um, and I get it. Like the Bears offensive line, I like was in shambles last week. I mean, granted, rain, yeah, whatever. But the Packers have a good defensive line. The Bears still have bad skill positions. Like I'm not sold that Equanimous St. Brown and
Yeah.
catchless Cole Kmet are that good through the air. So I think I favor the under in this one. But on the Packers side, like they're getting Lazard back, which is big. Like Romeo Dubes, I forget how to pronounce his last name. Didn't look horrible. The Christian Watson drop was tough.
Yeah,
That was tough.
that was a rough one.
Yeah, but I saw on Twitter that like the routes he was running, he was open the whole game. Rogers just didn't look his way. So you
Yeah.
hope that Rogers will watch the tape and be like, okay, you dropped your first one. Maybe I'll give you a second chance. So we'll see. Yeah. Anyways, the spread, I'll go with the Packers. That's a stay away line for me. What I like better is the under.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you on those things. So, I don't think I can take away too much from the Bears. Obviously, my wallet wasn't happy. Emotionally, I was super psyched
Oh,
that
of
they
course.
came up with a huge upset win. But the same thing, like I don't think that's very telling. I think Trey Lance is raw, and so yeah, I think that this shows he's basically a rookie. He's got to play like a full season. He's got to get his snaps. He's got to get his repetition. So I'm still hopeful he'll be good for the 49ers. But for the Bears, I like the resiliency and kind of the character of Fields during that game. I don't think we really got much done with the run game. And I actually would have thought with the rain, we would have,
Yeah.
like, it became a dirty game where we took away one clear advantage that the 49ers have is through the air. And I thought, like, man, we would actually have to some degree, an advantage possibly, or at least be equally matched with the run game. And we didn't really get much going. So that's a little concerning still, but it was a monsoon, like you said. And we still have a lack of weapons. And on the Packers side, if that drop didn't happen, that's one factor. There were injuries still, even on the offensive line. So they're going to get some pieces back. You're going to get Lazard back. You literally have Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I know that sounds stupid, but you have Aaron Rodgers. And to be fair, the Vikings looked freaking damn good.
They sure
Right.
did.
I almost think it's more just a reflection of how sharp and how damn good the Vikings actually look, which is crazy. In addition to all those other things, which sound like excuses, but I think they're legitimate things. And I still project the Packers to be a pretty strong team that if I'm not going to bet this line because I'm going to avoid the bad juju, but if I had to bet the line, I would actually predict the Packers to cover it. It's definitely not going to be one involved in one of my best bets, but I would
Yeah.
say at 9.5, I would take that. The total is hard for me to say. I mean, I'm gonna, if I would probably lean over slightly, thinking in my head that the Packers would make up maybe 28 points of that, with the Bears getting 14. So I would say if you can catch it at like 41 and a half, like
Yeah,
I would,
that's half points important.
yeah,
The below 42.
yeah, I would say I would lean over. So I'm going to go a little oppo barely, but like, yeah, over 41 and a half. If it's 42, I would just stay away. That would be my take. Cause I could see it playing out both ways, but I could see the Packers dropping 28, maybe,
Yeah.
and it's like, can the Bears score 14? That's really, I think that's the question. So
yeah, I mean, Rodgers has owned the Bears his entire career. This game is in Green Bay, so there's definitely an advantage there as well.
yeah, he's owned them. So, but let's hope that it's at least a competitive game, because I think every one of us just wants to see a fun game, basically.
Yeah, Sunday Night Football. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we get the joy of having 2 Monday Night Football games. So,
do you know what the logic for this? Like normally they do it in week 1.
that's what I was going to say. I was actually thrown off because I thought week 1 was going to have 2 games. I'm not sure what the rationale was for that.
And they're not even staggered. They're played like an hour apart. Like the Bills game is at like 7:15 Eastern, and the Eagles is at like 8:20. Like I don't understand. What's the logic for that?
I'm not sure. The fact that it didn't happen week 1, and the fact that you're now going to have to flip back and forth. They're not really, like you said, they're not totally staggered apart, or at least not staggered even far enough. I find that a little odd. So
yeah. I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find any reason why.
Yeah. So we'll start with the Titans versus the Bills, and obviously we saw. So I will say, and I know I'm stating the obvious here, but the projections were right. I think Matt and I, we've talked about both of these teams, and the Titans just kind of laid a fart of a game.
Sure did.
And Matt and I said, like, we would not really have much faith in them to do well in their division this year, and we're going to see some regression, and it looks like we are. I mean, might be a hot take and we're jumping on it too soon. The Buffalo Bills, who last year, in terms of variance, was one of the highest variance teams, so we have to take it with a grain of salt, but they look like Super Bowl contenders in week 1, right? So I mean, they literally just dominated in that game 1, and they look like world beaters. So the problem is, historically, I don't know what it is. It's just really not a great matchup for the Bills when they play the Titans, and they have struggled, to stop the run game to some degree. And for whatever reason, the Titans and their coaching staff, they scheme pretty well against the Bills and have just caused them fits. So the question mark is going to be, is that just kind of the specter of seasons of old? And are now the Bills here and they've arrived and this is their year and this is just going to be slaughter? Or somehow is this just matchup still going to be a bad matchup for the Bills? So that's, I think that's what the narrative is right now in a lot of articles and social media coverage. So what are your thoughts? Is it truly a bad matchup for the Bills, or is that people are just making too much of old narratives and the Bills are here to just destroy them?
Yeah, I don't really think there's anything like schematically that the Titans do that I can see would give the Bills fits. Like the Bills have a good run defense. They can stop Derrick Henry. And there's nothing about the Titans defense. Like I guess the knock on Josh Allen is he's not consistently accurate. He's not like Tom Brady with his surgical accuracy. He's hit or miss. So if you force him to throw it short, he's more likely to have an errant throw that either just stalls a drive or leads into a turnover. But to my knowledge, the Titans don't play this like cover 2, give him space type of defense. So I think that's more just noise than anything that we can really take like anything serious out of. Sure. I did find it funny. Like you're right. The Bills had the highest variance last year. The Titans had the 6th highest variance. The Titans beat the Bills last year, as you said. They beat the Chiefs. But then they lost to like the Jets. They lost to, I think, either the Texans. They had another like terrible loss in there.
Yeah.
And this is, so I mentioned this like in the last game, how like in the Packers Bears didn't take into account really at all the week 1 results, whereas this one did. Like the look ahead line was Titans +7. Then week 1 happened. Now it jumped up to 10. So you wonder, like, is what we saw in week 1 worth 3 points in favor of the Bills? Like the Bills stomped the Rams, just stomped them. And the Titans, like you said, lost to the freaking Giants.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like you always struggle at the beginning of the year how much to take into account in week one, because week one's notoriously wacky and loony and just weird. But to me, like where I settled on this one is like I just view the Bills as like a team on a mission. Like they're gonna stomp the team. Like they're gonna show up and stomp the games that they should. Like they had the highest variance last year because they lost to the Jaguars. Like the teams that sucked, they just didn't necessarily show up. You know what I mean? So like I think that they're just going to stomp the Titans this week. It's just 1 week, but like the Titans struggled in pass protection. Like the DVOA ranked them 26th, and that like the Giants defensive line was missing 2 of their edge starters, I believe, in Azeez Ojulari and obviously their first round pick Thibodeau. Now they're going against like Von Miller and like the Bills stacked defensive line.
God, how good did Von Miller look?
Oh my God.
My God.
Incredible.
Check that man for PEDs.
Man. I know.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's disrespectful to the man. He looked
incredible.
He looked like rejuvenated. Like, I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
It was Von Miller of old. So like to me, the Bills are like basically it's like you've seen Billy Madison?
Yeah.
You know, like the scene where he's like Adam Sandler calls the guy and he like apologizes for like bullying him in high school and he like crosses his name off the list. Like that is what the Bills are doing for like that's what I imagine. Like they like the Rams win the Super Bowl, like cross them off the list. Like they've lost to the Titans 2 years in a row, cross them off the list. Like I guarantee when they play the Chiefs, they're going to show up for that game. And like Josh Allen's a gamer. The Bills haven't punted in like 3 straight games or something ridiculous. Like I just think they're going to show up. They're going to say like, we are Super Bowl favorites for a reason. Like we lost to this team 2 years in a row. And I think they're going to come out and I wouldn't be surprised if they won by like 14, just to like they're like a game where they're up by 10 late and they're like, no, like F you, we're going to keep passing and like, we're going to run up the score.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you know, it's funny because I think we have to kind of take early season DVOA ratings kind of,
with a grain of salt,
with a grain of salt, but the Bills, I think, is the exception. Like I really do. And I'm not trying to say that as some hot take. It's like, it doesn't surprise me. And it's one game, but it doesn't surprise me that their defense is already the number 1 DVOA, right? Because they were the top defense last year. And you can already see pass DVOA 2, rush DVOA 2. And I'm saying this because, look, it's not like the Rams are a horrible team, right? So I think we are going to see the Bills end up with a similar defensive DVOA ranking that they were last year. And and you've added Von Miller, and Von Miller looked freaking insane. Okay?
So good.
So like, that guy was on a mission, man. Talk about man on a mission. It was insane to me. So, and I think, you know, the Titans, I'm expecting the Titans are going to have this up and down roller coaster phenomenon of the season again. I think they're going to win these strange games, maybe again, doing better in these like kind of underdog roles and then just laying eggs and farts like against bottom feeding teams. You'd think they would just like dominate by just running with Derrick Henry and just, you know, I think we're just going to keep seeing that happen where we are going to see more consistency from the Bills this year, just like you were saying. And if I have to go on, you know, the spread, it's a large number, but I actually would just go with the Bills to cover in this one, honestly. And of all the things, I don't trust the total. This one, the spread stood out to me. And I think if you could still get it at 9.5 and, you know, I think that's worth it. I think they can cover the 10 in this one. Not that I ever like going past like 6.5 often, but like, you know, but this would be an exception to the rule. And I would say, it's a weird, I know that's not scientific at all, but I have the same feeling. Like when they win, they're just going to want to win and put a stamp on it.
And like, I think what's going to happen is like, you know, in week 8, when they play the Jets or like they play the Dolphins, or maybe not the Dolphins, because Dolphins might be good. Like they're going to lay an egg the Bills are going to lay an egg at some point in the season. Like the way Josh Allen plays quarterback, with as erratic as his accuracy can be, there will be a game where they're just not going to show up. Like they lost to the freaking Jaguars last year, but like it's week 2, so they haven't gotten bored yet. And they're playing the 1 seed in the AFC last year. And the team that is, like you said, beaten them twice in a row. And like 2 years ago, they stomped them. Like the Titans just beat the snot out of the Bills 2 years ago, if you remember that. So
no, I did. And I think that's motivation. I really do. I think they want to be able to show that they're going to work through this adversity. And look, and if you look even at the matchups, right? the Titans were struggling, in the secondary. And if you even go, and again, it's a weak sample size, but if you go beyond just general defense DVOA and you actually go to DVOA versus receiving receiving positions, look at this. It's 26th versus wide receiver 1, 27th versus wide receiver 2, 18th versus tight end. So you're talking Diggs, Gabe Davis, who looked pretty sharp.
Yeah, he did.
I know he didn't play a major role, but you have Dawson Knox, who's very capable. So that's going to be the problem, just like Matt was saying. So if you even go from the analytics standpoint, yes, small sample size, but this is kind of a setup, in my opinion, for getting shredded in the secondary. So again, can Allen be accurate? And if yes, then yes, they are going to get shredded, in my opinion. So, if you're into DVOA stats, they're saying the matchups are not going to be great, in this one versus the Bills' offensive weapons, in my opinion. So
yeah, I'm with you that I don't have a great feel for the total. I would probably say like whatever the Titans team total is. This is something I probably should have checked prior to recording, but like I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game where the Titans were like barely score.
I would not be surprised.
It only goes over because the Bills put up 45. Wow, the Titans team total, you can
pretty much
it's 18 and a half. Most lines, that's probably a no touch. Like you can get it at. I mean, this is too juiced. Yeah, I probably no touch that team total. That's too low for me.
Yeah, that's a little low, but I actually don't think they're that off. Honestly, it could.
Yeah, if you want to, like, the juice sucks, but like PointsBet has it at 20 and a half, but at minus 150. So like that's probably not worth the juice there. And at that point, like, yeah. Anyways, we don't need to deep dive on the Titans team total.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah, I'm with you. Like the Titans are just weird because they like show up, like you said, in these spots like randomly.
Yeah.
And you're like, where did that come from? So like it's gonna like I always try to think when I'm like placing a bet, like, will I be mad at myself for getting this one wrong? Like, are we gonna wake up on Tuesday and be like, well, like, of course the Titans won, or like something stupid? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny, and that's why I kind of preface this segment with like that weird narrative, because like,
yeah,
I always annoy myself with those things, but it's like I try to remind myself, it's like I'm better off just going with the analytics and the projections, and just be like, I did it with my methodology and my own algorithm versus like I just went off a narrative, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like I hate it when I do that. It sucks when the narrative plays out and you're just like, see, it's like,
yeah,
it's the like, Thursday night trend of blah blah blah.
Yeah.
When it's below this degrees and the wind is like this, and you're like, okay, great. And it's
and in reality, you can make the trend argument for on both sides.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
So it's, I mean, yeah, it wasn't a great example. I could just see this being like, again, like I guess you were on the Bills. I was on the Rams all of like week one, like leading up to week one. I was all over the Rams, and the game started, and I was like, of course the freaking Bills were going to be like, came out pissed off because the last time they played on a football field was that stupid like overtime, dumb overtime loss to the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, it's gambler's distortion, right? We make it fit when we feel like we're effed, and we make it fit when we feel like we're genius. It's just,
yeah,
it is what it is.
When we're right, we're like, yeah, I'm such a genius. I called this, like it was the easiest. And then when you're wrong, it's either like, what a bad beat that was. Like that was a tough L, or it was like, I'm so dumb. Like I should have known that was going to happen. There's no in between.
Exactly. All right, guys. So we're moving on to the final primetime game. The sharp looking Minnesota Vikings versus at Philly against the Eagles. And I'll let Matt kick. I'll your hometown, your team. I'll let you kick this one off before I get into my concerns about some of the Eagles. What I saw in the line. So
yeah, sure. I mean, you call me a Negadelphian. That's the name for all the negative Philly Eagles fans.
Negadelphian. I've never heard that.
You've never heard that? Oh yeah, that's the thing.
Negadelphian?
Yeah.
Okay, got interesting. All right, I like that one though.
But I wasn't super impressed with the Eagles' victory. Like I came out of that game feeling worse about them than feeling good about them, which I feel like I'm in the minority. I've seen all over. Like, so there's two sides of the coin. The Eagles won because Jalen Hurts' legs. Like they won because of his legs, but that's not a replicatable way to win moving forward. Like the Lions, their defensive strategy was confounding, where they kept sending pressure, but they also played man coverage, which means that you don't have your eyes on the quarterback. They have no spy and no one playing contain on the quarterback. Like Jalen Hurts will take those rushing lanes 10 times out of 10. If his first read's not there, he will run. And the good defenses, which is what you saw last year, which is what you saw the Bucs do in the playoffs, they're going to say, hey, you are not going to beat us with your legs. We will let you throw all, if you can, we'll let you throw all over the field. But he's never been able to do that. So I watched that game and I'm like, there's Hurts bailing on a clean pocket. And then like he picks up 5 yards in the 3rd and 4, and everyone's like, oh, Hurts, like what a great play. Yeah. And I'm watching that. I'm like you bailed from a clean pocket. Like what? And then he makes these like incredible throws to AJ Brown. And everyone's like, well, like, oh, but I heard Jalen Hurts wasn't accurate. And it's like, no, he can like hit a deep ball, but like, can he hit a post pattern? Could he hit like a tough touch needed to like thread it in a needle down the middle, which he's never shown us. So like, we don't necessarily know a lot about this Vikings team yet because they played one game with a completely new coaching staff. But like someone that is an advisor for OddsJam is like good friends with someone on the Vikings, so a player who said that like they love their head coach. They love Kevin O'Connell, which doesn't really mean anything, but I just thought that was interesting. But like I could see a smart defense doing what the Bucs did in the playoffs last year. If you remember, the Eagles were shut out after 3 quarters, being like, yeah, we're not going to let you run. You can throw as much as you want. We're not going to let you run. And he hasn't shown he can win with his arm. And then defensively, like I don't need to get into detail. Like they gave up 35 points to Jared freaking Goff. They gave up touchdowns on 4 of their last 5 drives.
And you know what stood out there to me that's very concerning, especially even when it pertains to this matchup, is they couldn't stop the run. They got shredded.
And they couldn't stop the run because of like the way, like there were some missed tackles, and like missed tackles don't bother me. Like it's week 1, no one plays in the preseason. Like you're going to have some missed tackles, like the long DeAndre Swift run, like 50 yards. They missed 2 tackles. Like that happens. But yeah, they drafted this like run stuffing defensive lineman, Jordan Davis, in the 1st round, and he barely played. But when he did play, like if you look at the Eagles run defense on and off, significantly better when he was on. Like you think maybe we should play that guy, but yeah, their defensive coordinator, like he has his way he wants to play, and he won't adjust to his personnel, which is frustrating. And then the last point I'll make is about like the Justin Jefferson prop. Why I was all over that is, so the head coach of the Vikings came over from the Rams. He was their offensive coordinator, and he was apparently instrumental with Cooper Kupp having that blow up season. He was basically like, hey, we got an awesome receiver. We should move him all around the formation, like keep teams guessing. And that's exactly what the Vikings did with Justin Jefferson. So he put up like over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half. And he lined up more in the slot in that one game than he has like previously in his career. I'm pretty sure I saw that stat. So like that's just smart coaching to me. Like, hey, we're going to put our best players in the position to succeed. And I don't trust the Eagles defensive coordinator to do that. And I do trust the Vikings to do that on defense against Hurts. So regardless, it's long. I know I talk too much when it comes about the Eagles, but no. I had the Vikings money line in this one. Like I think the Vikings are going to win straight up.
Yeah, and I'm someone who, you go back to our previous episodes, I've been high on the Eagles, projecting them for tons of wins, Sirianni coach of the year. So I'm not gonna backtrack on any of that. It was just very concerning. It was and again, I think the Eagles, people who are very high on them, it's like it's week 1 and you could take away positive. Sure, like you said, the most important thing is they came away with a W. But like I said, and Matt was saying, the defense was concerning. The rushing defense in particular concerns me. They gave up 181 rushing yards. And yes, even if you take out that long run, so take that out, still
30 yards.
I didn't really see them stopping the game plan of the Lions. And the other thing that I'll just kind of reemphasize from Matt is I don't think that, like, it's not like Jalen Hurts can't pass. Like, I'm not concerned about that. He has the physical tools and the athleticism, and he can throw on the run, all that good stuff. I just kept seeing it. I'm not an analyst by any means, farthest thing from it, but in my mind, I just think he gave up on a clean pocket way too many times.
So frustrating.
And that concerns me because, I think when you're going to get the pressure that he's going to face against the Vikings, even more than what he faced against the Lions, it's like, is he going to give up a clean pocket even faster? Will he not go through those progressions even sooner and just over rely on the athleticism and the running, which again, it's obvious, everyone, that's the main criticism, but I would have hoped against the Lions and after another offseason that he would be a little bit more composed in the pocket and spend that extra, whatever, 1.5 seconds to go further through his progressions and hit that third read or whatever, right? So I don't know. There were a few things that I saw from Hurts. Of course, he's an athlete, and of course, you know, he can throw a deep ball, like Matt's saying. It's just I don't know. It's just I didn't like what I saw with his decision making at times when he had a clean pocket. So that was a little concerning to me. And again, not to poke fun, but Jared Goff, 21 to 37 versus 18 out of 32. Like, you know, yes, a few more attempts, but basically Goff played as good as.
Yeah. You take away Hurts's legs. Yeah.
A little concerning. So
yeah, it is. And AJ Brown was incredible, but lost in the shuffle is Devontae Adams had 0 catches. No other receiver outside of AJ Brown had more than, I think, 1 catch. I think Zach Pascal had 1 catch.
Devontae.
Yeah, sorry. No, AJ Brown had 10 catches. I think no other receiver had more than 1, and Devontae Smith had 0.
Yeah.
So eventually, you hope. I mean, I'm not as worried about the Devontae Smith part because teams are going to take away AJ Brown and they're going to leave Smith open, and then it's just up to Hurts to okay, they're doubling AJ Brown. Let me get it to Devontae Smith now. It's more so the worry that smart defenses will take away his running ability, and he has yet to show that he can go through his progressions. Oh, first read's not there. Second read's not there. Like
sure.
What he does, first read not there, tuck and run. And that's when you see him bail from clean pockets because you say, oh, my guy's not open. I'm going to scramble around now when he doesn't need to.
Sure. No, I hear you. Yeah. And God, man. And this is me going against my earlier predictions. Maybe I'm overreacting, but from what I saw as a complete team on both sides of the ball and how well they look like they're in mid-season form versus the Eagles, who I'm like, man, you need to get your shit together like fast. That I had, even before Matt said, I had pegged the Vikings for the value on the money line. Like I hate to say it, and I'm basically going against some of my futures, but small sample size, this spot matchup. That was actually one of my favorite things that stood out was the Vikings.
Me too.
I find it odd that they're at plus money right now. I really do.
Yeah. I think if we were to play devil's advocate to ourselves, you could use the argument that like the Vikings probably all offseason pegged that week 1 game. Like we're playing Aaron Rodgers. Like we are going to like you can imagine that it's possible that they'll have some sort of letdown after just beating the snot out of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, like the team that's won their division however many years in a row. But I don't necessarily like it wasn't that Vikings Packers game did not have the same intensity as the Seahawks did against the Broncos. Like that, those are two different things. And if we both believe in their coaching staff, which I do, then you hope that like for week 2 Monday night game, they're not going to have a letdown game essentially.
I wonder what the odds were for Coach of the Year for
Kevin O'Connell.
For O'Connell, because
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure it got smashed already. I'm sure it got smashed.
Yeah, do they still have those futures up in the middle of the season? Like,
I think they periodically, some books put them back up here and there with obviously adjusted odds, but yeah, but
plus 800.
Oh man, okay. I'm sure it had to have been like plus 3,000 or something
before, yeah. Because like the new head coach is just no one knows anything. It's just it's such an unknown.
Yeah. No, I hear you. But it seems like we both independently were on the same side on this one. Even after all my high Eagles praise, I'm a Chicagoan who's praising the Eagles, and now I'm very concerned. So it's
very boring. I think we agreed on all 4 picks against the spread.
Did we? On all 4? Oh, okay.
Chargers, Packers, Bills, Vikings.
Yeah, it's funny because that Chargers Chiefs one, like
I
ultimately think like the Chiefs look pretty damn impressive. So like it's just because of the number. So if you're like, who I think is going to win, I actually might just say Chiefs, but who's going to cover because it's over a field goal? That's what made me lean Chargers.
Me too. So, yeah, me too.
So I think my gut actually think the Chiefs are going to steal it, but 4.5. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a very close game. And because of that, I just think there's value getting that number at 4.5. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think of all of them, I mean, like between them and the Packers, I wasn't super confident. But yeah, I mean, nice symmetry. We each are backing two favorites, backing two underdogs. So nice symmetry there. And then in terms of the total, I locked this in early in the week. I got it over 49 on Caesars. It's been bet up to like 50, 51, and 50 and a half, something like that. But I like this over a lot.
Yeah, I think, I did like the over on this one. I caught it pretty early as well. So that one, I only put a half unit on it. But I can see the way that it was more the way that the Eagles defense looked.
Yeah.
That's what kind of swayed me to the over, even though it's a little high. Like, I was not impressed at all by the Eagles defense. That was the deciding factor for me on which way to lean on the total on this one. So,
and funny enough, Kirk Cousins, since he's been a Viking, is undefeated against the Eagles. He's smoked them.
He's undefeated.
He's smoked the Eagles since he's played them with the Vikings.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh.
I mean, in his career, he's got 21 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions in 9 games.
Wow.
So he plays well against the Eagles. I mean, granted, like that was with like Chip Kelly and Jim Schwartz. Like this, everything's different. But he's killed the Eagles.
All right. Okay, guys. So thanks for sticking with us through our primetime game preview. So to wrap it up, guys, we're going to go through some of our best bets. And then, Matt and I are trying to keep track of this. We're just going to keep it simple. We're just going to keep track of our records, and we're not going to get into nuances of units and stuff just to make this quicker at times. So let's go through our 3 best bets that we've kind of pegged for this upcoming NFL, week 2. So I'll kick it off. It was a non-primetime game, which probably could have been a pretty exciting game, but now it's looking like it's going to be a dud. It's the Bengals versus Cowboys game. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to sound like a quote unquote square, but I think I see value, even though people always get afraid of minus numbers and you're like, there's too much quote unquote juice. And I get it. But if you cap it and you think it's, you're going to hit a particular spread, like, so right now the natural line for the Bengals is around 7.5. Those who bet the look ahead line, I think it was like, oh man, I think it was way lower than this, like prior to the Dak news, obviously. So,
yeah.
So if you're lucky and you're one of those guys who bet way ahead, I mean, you are very fortunate. But right now, as it stands, it's minus 7.5 at most books. But if you use OddsJam and you shop around, I saw that an alternative line on Barstool and Bet Rivers, who uses the same line maker. That's why their lines are always the same. They use the same line maker. I'm going to eat a little juice, and I don't care because I think this is very coverable now, given the situation. I don't think Cooper Rush is going to be able to keep up with Joe Burrow, that I'm going to take Bengals minus 6.5 at minus 132, a touch high. But with the current situation, I'll take a 1 touchdown cover against the Cowboys.
Yeah, this isn't one of my bets, but I locked in the Bengals minus 6.5 at minus 120.
Even better.
So I got so that better. I actually do have a pick in this game, but I took the under 43 minus 110 on WinBet. I'm still nervous about the obviously I'm nervous about the Cowboys offense. Obviously, I'm still a little concerned about the Bengals offense as well. Like Burrow's not going to throw 4 interceptions and fumble again. Of course not. But TJ Watt killed the Bengals. Like that's what killed them. In a playmaking secondary, granted it was a safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick, killed them as well.
Sure.
They're playing the Cowboys, who have Micah Parsons and they have DeMarcus Lawrence. In the secondary, they have Trayvon Diggs. So the Bengals offensive line, like all summer or in off season, they upgraded 2 positions. They're going to be so much better. And like for 1 week, they stunk. They stunk.
I know.
So it's a low total, getting it under 43. My guess is that the Bengals know that the Cowboys aren't going to be able to score a ton. So they're going to be a little bit safer than they were last week. Because historically, their coach, Zach Taylor, is historically I can't think of the word, the opposite of aggressive. He's historically not aggressive with his play calling. Like, he runs the ball a lot. They're one of the most run heavy teams in a neutral game script, which I think means it's first or second down and the game is within 7 points either way. I think is what that stat means. He's very run heavy, even though he has Joe Burrow. Sure. So I think they're going to lean towards that against the Cowboys, knowing that it's unlikely Cooper Rush scores a lot on them, especially now the Cowboys are missing like 3 or 4 starters on the offensive line on top of Dak. Michael Gallup, I think, is still probably unlikely to play. Like,
probably unlikely.
It's going to be gross. So, anyways, that's one of my best bets. Cowboys Bengals under 43.
Under 4. Okay. So I like that. I like that for all the reasons. And I will say, just like I gave Von Miller praise, man, Micah Parsons.
Oh my God.
That was the one bright spot, right? That was he stood out. That was the one bright spot for that Cowboys game.
And he's going to do it again. Like, he's so good.
He will feast. So that is a concern for me and my Bengals approach on the spread, but he looked good. He looks like the real deal. It wasn't just a 1 year, one hit. No, he looks like the real deal, man. He looks scary. Okay. My second best bet, we already talked about it, was because of the value. I consider it a best bet. Is just, I still find it odd that the Vikings are plus money. So that is one of my best bets for this week. Is
just their money line, or
I'm just going to say money line. I'm just going to say go for the money line. Just go for the value. And I'm just going to say, just roll with it. And you could, you can still, even to this day right now, you can get it a plus 115 on points bet. That's kind of one of the better ones. I mean, unless you have one of these offshore books. If you have offshore books, you can catch it at plus 123, plus 125. But the standard fare US legal US books, whatever, I won't use the word legal, but US books, plus 115 on points bet. But if you have offshore books, which many of you do, you can get it in the plus 120 still. Even better then, guys, if you can get it in the plus 120 something range. So
I like it. I mean, obviously I agree. Funny enough, my second pick is also in that game. It's also the over. Okay. Like I said, I locked it in at 49 at minus 110 on Caesars. I put a full unit on that one.
Nice.
Looks like it's been bet up. Now you can get it. You can get it at 50 at minus 107 on Circa. It's legal for me in Colorado. I'm not sure where else it's legal, but if you can use Circa, I got it at you can get it at minus 107. You could also get it a little bit juiced at minus 115 on BetMGM. So that one's obviously legal everywhere. So over, I guess that's my question to you is, how should we count it? Should we count it what I locked in because I got it in early, or should we count it at what it's currently available at? Because obviously those are two different things.
Yeah, I mean, look, these are our bets, and people can fade or follow even if there's been some line movement. So I'd say it's whatever you locked in. So
okay, then I locked it at 49. If you want to lock it in now, you can get it at 50. I would still put a unit on it.
There you go, and that's it. If you want that, if you say it's worth following, it's worth following. They can fade it or follow at their own discretion. So.
Okay, yeah, it's always like I never know what to do about line movement and stuff because it changes.
It's part of the game, right? It's if someone's sharp, they're already using software and they're just grabbing it even before they hear a podcast, right? If we're doing some of the research for them, then that's why you should sign up for oddsjam.com, guys.
There you go.
Being serious, then you're
right. You're right.
All right. So last one's third one. This one we already talked about, and I am going to just say screw the narrative and the specter of the Titans. It's boring, but I'm very confident in the Bills, like I was Bills versus Rams. I'm just going to ride the confidence juice, and I'm going to say Bills to cover at minus 9.5. It's a large number. I don't even care. They did, and they overcame difficulties, guys. Right, so it's not like it went totally smooth in that Rams game. I mean, they had turnovers. They had and to me. And you still beat a legit contender like the Rams like that, even with all of those mistakes. Just make a few less and destroy the Titans for me, guys, please, at minus 9.5.
Yeah, I think this isn't one of my bets. I think I mentioned I did a early bets video. I locked in Packers minus 9. I locked in Bills minus 9. I locked in Eagles over 49.
Nice.
So I got ahead of the spread on those. My next one is still currently available. I checked. Not a game we talked about. Give me the Bucks -2 against the Saints.
Oh,
minus yeah.
-2.
Like there's a weird like history between Tom Brady as a Buccaneer against the Saints. He's 0 for 4 against them in the regular season. 2 of the games he literally hasn't scored a touchdown.
One game true. It was weird. You're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, one game they got shut out. One game they only scored 3 points. Like weird history against the Saints. But Drew Brees isn't there. Sean Payton's not there. The Saints are missing like 3 safeties from last year's team, where their secondary is still pretty good, still pretty deep. But like three starting safeties is 3 starting safeties.
Yeah.
And I looked this up. So the Saints won. They came back against the Falcons. What the Falcons do, they blow fourth quarter leads.
God.
Jameis Winston had 269 total passing yards in that game. Prior to the last 3 drives of the game, he had 61 passing yards.
I was about to say, didn't he have like 40 something at halftime or something?
He had 208 like passing yards in the last 3 drives of the game.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. I was like that.
And like
horrible.
It was so bad. And to me, I don't know, like we talked about this. I think it was us talked about it last week. Like we don't understand all this, why the Jameis is getting all this love. Like, where is this coming from? Beating the Falcons, like having to come back from down 16 certainly isn't me saying, oh, now that the Saints are back, don't worry.
Yeah.
So the Bucks, I do have my concerns. I'll gladly take 2 points for the Bucks to cover against the
no, I think that's great. Even though I can't steal it as one of the best bets. I'm gonna shop around, and even if it's I just want it under a field goal, and I'll take it at 2.5 or 2, so
I'm pretty sure it's still available on BetMGM at -2. At least it was before we recorded. I guess I should check now, but yeah. Okay.
I think if you guys can get it under a field goal, just take it under the field goal. So yeah. So I like that a lot. Yeah. If I don't know why I didn't look at that one. Maybe I just didn't look at it because I think anything the Saints are involved in, it looks like a shit show at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's definitely true. Yeah, no, it's still there on MGM. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So that if that's, I'm going to tail that. So I'm going on the record that even though it's not one of my best bets, it's something I'm going to tail Matt on for sure. So I like that. So thanks for pointing that, because I don't know. There's still Jameis hype. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Did you see that atrocious first half? I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And I refuse to believe the Saints just have Tom Brady's number. Like he's freaking Tom Brady. Like I think he'll figure it out.
And he's one of those guys. He finds reasons to get himself hyped and stay motivated. So just like we said, the Bills versus Titans. And again, I know that's a weird narrative thing, but I don't care. It's just, I think he's going to find a way to be like, we just can't throw up a fart again in this game. So
can't do it for the 5th straight time. Although they did beat him in the playoffs. So at least he has like the games that matter. He got the win there.
But yeah, I forgot about those fluky games though, where like they could not even just score. Like,
literally shut out twice. It's so weird. So weird. Anyways, all right. So what were your 3?
So I Bengals -6.5. I had the Vikings money line, and I had the Bills to cover -9.5.
Okay, got it. I forgot about. Okay, I have Cowboys Bengals under 43, Eagles Vikings over 49, Bucks -2.
Okay, guys, let's see if we can at least match 5-1, or hopefully go 6-0.
I'm feeling a 6-0.
Let's go, babe. Let's get this, guys. All right, guys, we thank you so much for joining in. So please, if you can help us out, we really appreciate it. The core followers, thank you for jumping onto our YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, follow us on all mediums, guys. We appreciate your support. Follow us here, follow us on Twitter, on YouTube, on podcast mediums everywhere, Spotify, all those places, Apple Podcasts. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Sweat the Bet, Matt and Andrew.
Thanks, guys.